Welcome to In Edina, a program about the people, places, and activities, all in the city of Edina. I'm your host, Lillian McDonald. We bring you this broadcast from Edina City Hall, where the City Council makes decisions affecting our community. This program is dedicated to introducing or reintroducing you to the elected or newly elected officials here in our city. And joining us first off the bat is City Council member Joni Bennett, re-elected. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, this is your second term now for the city, right?
Yes, it is.
And you have lots on the agenda. We have a brand new year. How are you going to get us started?
First of all, we have a new budget. We're entering the year with the lowest levy increase we could approve, and we are planning to provide the same high-quality services that we've been providing as a city. We call it excellent value for tax dollars. Park and recreation services, the best snow plowing in the Twin Cities, possibly in the entire upper Midwest, and we look forward again to providing those services to our residents and going forward to develop as a city.
Clearly you are proud of the local work, and as an incumbent it showed in the election results. You were the top vote getter, and there were 2 open city council seats, and 4 candidates actually were fairly close in the runnings. What does it mean to you to be back now on the city council? How do you make it new and fresh in a second term?
Well, first of all, I'm grateful for the support that people gave me as a candidate and with their votes. I took nothing for granted. There were actually 6 candidates running, and I didn't discount anybody's candidacy. I thought everybody brought something to the table. To me, the turnout and the votes indicated, I think, support for some of the things that we have been doing over the last 4 years, an emphasis that we've been putting on making sure that people have an opportunity to have their voice heard, are involved in the process. Some of that will be evident this year with about a dozen or more new board and commission members coming on into place. That is a process that we are opening every year. We have about 50 people applying every year for about a dozen new positions.
How do you keep it new, and especially now as the economy and the forecasters are saying this could be another tight year?
Well, it makes us be, I think, creative. We're certainly responsible. It also makes us be creative because we have a pretty high standard of living in this community. I think it attracts people to the city. It keeps them here, businesses, residents, and it's a challenge to continue to provide those services and those amenities. But I think our residents look to us to continue doing that.
And you mentioned the budget a moment ago. At the local level, ours is in place. The state budget, a whole different situation. How did you position the city so that you can address any changes the state may make and hand down to local government?
We have historically not relied on money from the state, and that has insulated us from some of the cuts that some other communities have experienced. And in planning for the budget year by year, we've made sure that anything that we were including in the budget, like market value homestead credit, as that was cut in one year, we no longer included that as a number that we were relying on or even hoping for in terms of revenue. So there is nothing in this current budget that relies on money from the state. But looking forward, we want to make sure that we're continuing to provide training in our police department, fire department, and some of those sources of funding may dry up. We do have the Crime Prevention Fund and some other sources that we look to. Our departments are very conscientious and creative about applying for grants as they become available.
Sure, to keep things going. Now that's keeping spending in check. Revenue building is equally as important to you and others on the City Council. ways to do that for the city this year?
I think one of the things that the League of Minnesota Cities emphasizes is that a city should always be looking at its fees and charges and making sure that they cover the services that are provided. I think we have some work to do with that. We will be looking more carefully at our enterprise operations. That's something that we started last year. And we will be looking for some operating efficiencies and also what our residents are hoping for us to continue to operate. They may have some priorities that we haven't been aware of, and we will be conducting a survey this year that will learn more about those priorities.
Okay, good. On the business level, development?
Very, very important. One of the things that we did put into our budget was a membership in something sponsored by the Itasca Project. The focus is economic development within an area defined as cities and counties around the metro, western Wisconsin, certainly greater Minneapolis, greater St. Paul. It's a private-public partnership that was developed very thoughtfully and carefully over some years, and the membership in it was ranked according to population, and we were one of the early cities to sign up.
We can also get new information this year on the census. That data will finally be fully reported. Any early looks that we can consider right now?
Some very, very interesting information, I think, that pertains to some of the discussions we've been having as a city. People are often saying that we're an aging city, and what we learned last year is that we're actually not an aging city. About 20% of our population is over age 65, which is older than the state average of about 14%, but is the same as it was a decade ago or even 20 years ago.
Oh, interesting.
The population that is growing in our city is under age 18, and that has grown from about 21% 10 years ago to almost 27%.
Wow.
That's exactly what we say we want
Encouraging.
the city to be doing, which is to be drawing young families in addition to the seniors who choose to relocate or stay here.
And all of those folks will have a say in the work the City Council does this year. Joni Bennett, again, congratulations on re-election. We look forward to your continued good work. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Edina's newest city council member is Josh Sprague, who ran a pretty lean and mean campaign and got the second highest vote getter here in Edina. Welcome to the show.
Thanks very much. It's an honor to be here.
Yeah, congratulations. You're just underway, a new year and a new city council seat. Why did you run?
I got involved in some local issues and on a neighborhood level, and we, working together with people in the neighborhood, we were trying to bring forward a neighborhood-based solution for our street reconstruction. And we met some obstacles and impediments in the way that I thought didn't need to be there. Thought there could be an improved process, and rather than just talking the talk, I decided to do something about it and try to have a bigger impact.
And now look at you. You're official. You're on the city council, and you are making decisions. What kind of headway would you like to make as a brand new member? What kind of things would you like to change or have impact on?
I have a lot of ideas in my head, and I think that's one thing I'll bring to the table is I have kind of an open mind, a creative mind, and I can bring some idea generation to the council. But we have great leadership and great experience on the council already, so I think for the first part, I'm going to take a lay of the land and learn the procedures, and then some of the initiatives I'm interested in are making Edina a green leader, something that I ran on, something that a lot of constituents talk about, and there's some specific ideas. Actually, there's a best practices model running its way through the council right now. It's called Green Step Cities. Mm-hmm. It's being shepherded by Diane Plunkett Latham and the Energy and Environment Commission. And it will give us an opportunity to be one of the first Class A certified cities. And what I'm interested in is, like the school district, keeping the city on the cusp of innovation and continuing to create amenities that make us a 21st century city.
Mm-hmm. That's going to take some time and some sacrifice too. But so you're interested in the green initiatives, and to balance all of the decision making and the research and the knowledge that you have to gain before you can make a decision as city council member. How do you plan to balance that? That's work, your city council job, and I understand you're a father of 4 children, so there's a lot going on at home as well.
Yep, four kids, 4 and under. But Luckily I was blessed with a lot of energy, and that's one thing you need to balance, business. I run my own business, home, to be an active father, and then the politics and the different other service commitments that I have in the community. So you have to have a lot of energy, but you also have to have good time management, and every minute of my day, for the most part, is occupied. After I put the kids down, I have 3 or 4 more hours that I can do some additional work, and usually that goes into my community obligations, my civic obligations as well. So you're very scheduled.
Let's reflect back for a second about the kids. When you were telling them, I'm going to run for city council, what did they say?
My 4-year-old probably grasped the concept the most, and he was excited about it. And I also, something that stands out for me more than the announcement was during the campaign. I used to put all the kids in the car with my wife, and we'd all go out together to do sign installs. And after a while, the kids would say to me, we get in the car and say, "Oh, Dad, we're not going to do sign installs again, are we?" And so they were good troopers. They went along with it. Obviously, the kids and my wife have been very supportive, and I'm blessed to have their support and understanding, because it's a sacrifice for them, for their time with me as well.
Sure. Now, you come home and you tell them you won, and you've got a city council meeting then. Are you going to be bringing them to the meetings?
Boy, I don't know. I wouldn't know if I want to do that to the crowd. A pretty boisterous crew, but if you watch some of these meetings and you're 4 years old, you're probably going to lose the attention quickly.
Yeah, so you won't have to worry about that, at least for now.
But he knows about, to me it's modeling service, civic service, community service. That's something I want to instill in my kids, and I think that's what also makes our community so strong, is we model that behavior for our children, and we involve the kids in the structure. I mean, look at all the different teenagers that are on the commissions. That's one of the reasons we won that award, for being in the top 100 communities for kids.
In addition to making Edina more green, is there anything else you'd like to see in 211?
There are some governance pieces and some community engagement pieces, and I think in terms of the governance, clearer policies, at some point we're going to have to recodify our ordinance structure and things like that, and that will mostly be handled by our new city manager. And we have a superlative leadership in Scott Neal. I've had some meetings with him already, and he's on board with a lot of ideas to make the governance smoother, more efficient, and more community friendly. And then on the community engagement piece, I'd like to help design some new ways to get the public involved, and I think engagement is a key word. There are a lot of people that want to be involved in more short-term endeavors, task force, community forums, and things like that, and I think we have to create some new opportunities for them to get involved. I mean, if we can leverage even 50% of the talent and the generosity in our community base, we're going to be able to take a huge step forward. We have assets that most other communities lack, and it comes from the people.
Great, and that's exactly where you started, even before you were elected. Josh Spray, congratulations once again, and good luck to you.
Thanks very much.
Representative Keith Downey joins us now to take a look at how the House of Representatives will address this year's political issues. Welcome to Edina.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Representing District 41A, we appreciate
Correct.
it. And it's going to be a busy year, new government, a new shape in the House and the Senate. Let's take up the issues one at a time. Quickly, on the budget, what do you see for the forecast?
Well, clearly we're going to have a large deficit. The good news is that we actually have an increase in our general fund revenues projected. So the challenge will be finding a way to fund our priorities within the increase that we get, as compared to trying to increase spending beyond what we're receiving in tax revenues.
Are you looking at the whole year as just a hold steady and keep spending down again and again and again as we try to recover from this economic sluggish world we live in?
Well, clearly I think priority number one has to be finding a way to make sure that we do not impede the economic recovery. State revenues will grow as the economy does better. All of our public services go down in cost as people have jobs. So economic revitalization has to be job one for this legislature. beyond that, finding a way to fund our priorities and reform and redesign what we're doing to live within our means is going to be the critical task.
Now, in Edina, in your district, you're representing our interests here, especially on the small business and private sector world. What do you see in 2011 for our work together at the local and state level?
Well, we passed a number of kind of first offerings in terms of tax incentives for small business owners last session. There are a number of reports coming back due to the legislature about how we improve our business climate overall. I'm hopeful that this legislature will continue to send signals to the business community that we're working on the issues important to them so that we can get out of the way and allow the private sector to do its thing to bring our economy back. So I'd say that's job one.
Mm-hmm. Education is also an important issue on the agenda this year.
Well, absolutely. We're all proud of our legacy here in Edina and in the state of Minnesota overall, the quality of our education system and what it has done to position us for success. So we can't compromise on that as a priority. Yeah, we've got a tough budget situation. I think there is bipartisan agreement that education needs to be a priority. We've got to find a way to fund it and keep it running. There's also some critical reforms that are needed, so I'm hopeful we'll move forward on those as well.
Now, healthcare, that's top of mind for everybody, especially with an aging population nationwide.
Right.
What about healthcare reform issues for the state and here?
We'll have a very fundamental decision, and that is, do we as a state choose to jump in lock, stock, and barrel with the federal health reform, or do we choose to retain some of our Minnesota distinctives? I personally favor that approach. I think we've had high quality, relatively low cost health care in Minnesota compared to other states and other regions. For us to abandon that and kind of go to the national model, I think would put us as a state at a disadvantage. So I'm hopeful that we stick to the reforms and the program changes that we've been proposing here in Minnesota and move forward that way.
In general, what's the strategy? We have Republican House and Republican Senate majorities,
Yeah.
and now a new governor with a different opinion, perhaps.
Interesting. The dynamic would appear to just have reversed itself where we had a Democratic legislature and a Republican governor. The key difference from just a negotiation standpoint is in the past, the legislature was pushing things and trying to get them through the governor. In this case, the governor is going to be wanting the legislature to pass things that we're not interested in sending to him. So the posture, while it seems to be just reversed, is actually very different politically. So we'll have that dynamic to deal with.
Representative Downey, one last question here. What do you say to residents of Edina, residents of your district, residents of the state, as we look forward together in 2011, how to get through jobs that are down, an economy that is also down? What's the message that keeps us together?
You know, I just don't think there's any way to get out of this other than hard work. We have to look at our state budget top to bottom and figure out what works and what doesn't, fund our priorities, cut the things that aren't producing the results that we're looking for, and I think really trust Minnesotans. Do the things that allow the private sector to come back. Do the things that allow families and businesses to succeed here and want to stay in Minnesota. And I think it's kind of the reinvention of our Minnesota legacy for the 21st century that really should bind us together. And it's not easy, right? These are really tough political issues. These are really tough fiscal issues. We're all in a pinch. Our backs are up against the wall in the state legislature. But I really think if we have that mindset of reinventing our Minnesota legacy for the future, that gives us a lot of common ground and a way to work together.
Representative, thank you very much for joining us in Edina.
Thank you.
We wish you good luck.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Appreciate being here.
Joining us now is Senator Jeff Michel. Congratulations. You have won yourself a third term in the Senate.
Yeah, congratulations. And now you get what you wish for, and we've got a lot of work to do at the Capitol.
Wow. People say that all the time, whether you're a new recruit into the Senate or the House or an incumbent. When you say there's a lot of work to do, as chair now of the Jobs and Economic Committee, what kind of work gets done?
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest change at the Capitol, Lillian, is there's a lot of new faces. There's actually 60 new state legislators out of 200. So, you know, a quarter of the group has turned over. and there are new Republican majorities running the place.
On both sides of the aisle.
Right, House and Senate.
Which hasn't happened in about, what, 40 years?
It's been a lifetime. It's been a generation. So the work that I'll be involved in, I think it's going to feel like it's a brand new job. I served in the minority for 8 years, got a few things done, but now in the majority, we are responsible for running the committees, for setting an agenda, and so I'm excited to be chair of the Jobs and Economic Growth Committee, and I really believe that of all the campaigning, Democrat, Republican, Independent, the one issue that everyone talked about was jobs.
Yeah. So how do we get them going here?
Well, it's going to take a lot of work. We're going to all have to work together. We have a new governor to go along with these new majorities.
Which could be challenging. Would you have Republican majorities on both sides of the aisle and a Democratic government?
You know, Minnesotans, I don't know if they mean to do this, but they always seem to produce some kind of a balance. Others might argue that it's a checkmate, but I actually think there's something healthy to not letting any one branch of government getting too far away from the other. So I think there's a lot of work that a Republican legislature can do with a Democrat governor. I'm going to take Governor Dayton at his word. He's about jobs and economic growth as well. So I think the first thing we need to do is focus on small businesses and entrepreneurs. Those are the people that create and produce new jobs. And it's a rough economy, and I think we need to do this with a little bit of humility. There's not a magic switch that St. Paul can turn on. But what we can do is listen to and reach out to these businesses already in Minnesota and maybe try to attract a few new folks across the border.
A lot of small businesses in the city of Edina. What can you offer them to keep going and keep growing in this tough day and age?
Well, I'd start with a couple things. First, I'd say, I'm going to go to those small businesses. I'm going to ask them, what do you need? What would give you some more certainty in this kind of economy? Specifically at the Capitol, and I would hope that even in a bill, one of the first pieces of legislation that we should pass this year should involve tax cuts for small businesses. We have to make it cheaper for them to do business and take a risk. Regulatory relief, so I'm talking about streamlining the permits. They should get an answer more quickly from government. If there's a license that they need, if there's an approval that they need, we need to make that whole system easier, more user-friendly. So again, when people are going to put their own money, their own capital at risk, maybe hire some new employees, they should know where the government is and be really clear on that. We owe them that.
You know, everybody is, from the family, from the kitchen table, all the way to the head table in boardrooms, have reinvented themselves leaner and meaner in this economic time.
Right.
What about government? It seems like that's a slower process.
Well, and I think that was one of the big messages from the election. Families have gone through this. Businesses have gone through this. We've got all these new buzzwords: reinvention, transformation. Governments haven't done that. We still have kind of a 1950s model. Take what we spent last year, throw in inflation, call it a day. We can't do that anymore. We can't sustain the level of spending or keep increasing taxes in the midst of a really tough recession. So we have to reform and reinvent. We have to use all those buzzwords in St. Paul.
We're looking at about a $6 billion deficit here in the state. Where are we about, compared to other states across the country, are we about middle of the pack?
I think we're about middle of the pack.
And how do we sizen up right now?
Yeah, let me give you another way to look at that. We've made more promises than we can keep as a state government. Now, that's true in other states. It's even true in other countries as you look across the world. But in this next budget cycle, state government's going to take in 5% more revenue. Even in a down economy, we're going up 5%. I think voters and taxpayers are saying, live within that 5%. Put together your budget, not with new taxes, but with that small growth in revenue. I think a lot of families and a lot of businesses would take 5% growth right now.
I know I would. Senator, we'll be keeping an eye on you, and we'll have you back to see how that 5% measures up before the next election.
Thanks so much.
Every month, In Edina features a volunteer or an act of kindness making a difference in our community. But this month, we congratulate a team of volunteers known as the League of Women Voters of Edina. The nonpartisan group hosted a series of televised candidate forums many voters watch before they cast a ballot. It takes a lot of work behind the scenes before there's any action on the set.
Sound check, please.
Especially at Edina's City Hall, where broadcast crews set the stage every election knowing audiences will tune in to watch hopeful candidates debate issues that can win them a seat in the political office.
If you sit in the audience or watch it on cable TV, you can get a pretty good idea about what makes a candidate tick.
Voter Services Chair Sandy Fox coordinated the candidate forums last fall as part of her volunteer work leading up to the local and state elections.
We ran 4 candidate forums. We ran the City Council forum. There were 6 candidates for City Council. We ran forums for 41A and B, and we also ran a forum for the Senate 41.
Live web streaming and television audiences watch the candidates debate the issues, hosted by the League of Women Voters of Edina.
League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan political organization that encourages the active and informed participation in government.
Nearly 100 volunteers make up the League's membership, supporting grassroots efforts to be sure voters and candidates alike know why every vote counts when there's an election.
It's a huge job, and there are many interests in the League through our members, and every volunteer is so important.
Now that candidate forums are over and the polls are closed, it's time for elected officials to cast their votes on local and state issues.
Member Brindle? Aye. Mayor Huffman?
Aye.
Keeping track of outcomes will be the League of Women Voters of Edina, making sure voters know what their elected officials are broadcasting today and forecasting for their futures in politics.
We're very lucky to have such a dedicated group in Edina, and we welcome more to come aboard.
The League of Women Voters of Edina was established in 1954, and even though their name suggests women only, the League welcomes men and women members. If you're interested in joining the nonpartisan organization, check them out on their website, www.lwvedina.org. We'd like to thank all of our elected officials who served as guests on this broadcast from City Hall here in Edina. Thanks to you for watching. Until next time, I'm your host, Lillian McDonald. Thanks for watching In Edina. Have a great day.